What is money? What is money really?
Here we go. Well, that is a really big question, but it is a pretty fundamental one. And for me, one of the reasons why our financial system has subjected us to recurring crises and still ongoing financial crises, if I may say so, is because there is a basic misunderstanding, and sometimes I think it's a deliberate misunderstanding of the nature of money. So money is a social construct. It's based on promises. I promise to repay at a certain time and a certain rate of interest, and it is as a social construct. It's upheld by our social institutions. I promise to repay is held up by our criminal justice and judicial system, which makes sure that I honour my contract. The money in which I pay, the money of account, if you like, or the currency, is upheld by the central bank, which in turn depends on the taxation system for upholding the value of the currency, because it does so by ensuring that all tax liabilities are paid in that currency, and that's what gives a currency its value. And then we have double entry bookkeeping and an accounting system, which is really important to balance assets and liabilities in the monetary system. And then, of course, we have the rate of interest, and that is charged on it. So a monetary system is a system of obligations and promises to pay to each other of assets and liabilities. And that's its joy. It's very different from barter, because if you, for example, own corn, you can do what you like with that corn, and it's only when you choose to lend it to somebody else that you actually engage with others. But in a monetary system, when you save money, you're already in a relationship with others, because the money that you have to save is there as a consequence of credit, and credit is money. And debt is money, therefore, too. So money is credit and debt. Money is I promise to pay. And the thing that's really important to understand is that money is not and never has been a commodity. We've used commodities such as packets of cigarettes, shells, gold and silver to represent, if you like, our promises and the value of our promises and the sincerity of our promises. You can keep this gold as collateral, these cigarettes or whatever, but the actual promise to pay is based on trust. And the way I like to describe it is that in the old days, if you think of a village in the old days living pretty self-sufficiently, if I wanted someone to cut my hair, the hairdresser would say, well, yeah, I'll cut your hair, but would you please fix the thatch in my roof, because I'm no good at thatching. So I don't exchange hair for thatch or thatch for hair. Instead, I say, yes, sure, I'll fix your thatch, but please cut my hair. And what happens next, I do beg your pardon, is that the chief of the village or the high priest oversees this arrangement and upholds that promise, says, well, now you've had your hair cut, now you have to honor your obligation. You have a liability to the thatcher. You've got to honor that obligation and do the thatching. And that process of honoring those obligations and those liabilities, and the institution that upholds it, in the case of the village, it was the chief. Today, it's our judicial system, it's our central bank, and so on. Those institutions are what make our promises meaningful. And that is what makes it possible for there effectively not to be any limit to the amount of money in the economy. As long as you and I can promise to do something for each other, we are limited only in our capacity to do that, not in our capacity to make promises. Now, having said that, people will say, oh, this is all highly abstract. You know, my experience of money is that it's, pounds in my pocket and so on. But in fact, all money, in fact, nearly something I imagine about 98% of all money at the moment is not tangible stuff. Very few young people today seem to use coins and notes. They all go about with a little card which they wave at a machine in the newsagents when they pay for their newspapers. And so what's happening there is a transaction, and it doesn't involve necessarily notes and coins. But having said that, although money is this series of transactions, we do have something called the currency, and the currency is something that is issued only by, for example, the central bank, the Bank of England, and the central bank upholds the value of that currency so that I can measure the value of my haircut against your thatching process. And it does so effectively through taxation, because it makes us all pay our taxes in the money of account, in the currency. That is what gives the currency, sterling or the dollar or the yen, its value. If I live in a poor country where there are poor tax collection systems, where there's corruption and there isn't a judicial system, there is no money. And that is because the currency will have no value, will have little value, will be undervalued, and there won't be institutions that enable us to fulfill these promises, these social contracts between us. And so there is no money. So I hope I've been able to distill into these few minutes some concept of what money is. And it is certainly not barter, and it is certainly not gold or silver or whatever. And I think the way people can think about it is to think about a credit card. Whenever you go into a shop with your credit card, you know that there's no money in the credit card account. It's not like your current account where you may have a deposit and some balances. There's no money in your credit card when you go to spend. You hand over your credit card and you purchase an item, and the credit card doesn't stay with the shopkeeper. You pick it up and put it back in your pocket. It's the means by which you measure the value of something, and it's the mean by which you undertake a purchase or a transaction.
So we've got this social